I'm here in Cockfosters, and in front of me we have Christine Michael, who's very well known within our community. She's going to tell us her story.
Hello Mike, welcome to Cockfosters, to Michael Wright Estate Agents. Thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity. I understand you want me to speak about the beginning and my life's journey. I was born in Rizogaspason, both parents from Rizogaspason, and I was 2 when my father came first, and then we followed when I was 2 years old. I've always been in North London. We started off in near Islington, Caledonian Road area, then we moved to Archway until I got married. I went to school at Parliament Hill in Hampstead, and I married. I've been married for just over 50 years with a son and daughter, 2 adorable grandchildren. And I started Michael Wright Estate Agents from Arnos Grove initially at the age of 29. But I always enjoyed not dabbling in property, but I always dealt with and talked about property from my dad and from my uncle. So it was not inbred in me, but it was of an interest at an early age. And I remember even at the age of 7, for whatever reason, I was attracted to newspapers and adverts and looking at houses and almost trying to guess how much they were worth. But it was the kind of conversation that my dad and my uncle had while I was growing up, and they did own properties and they rented them, and it maybe started from there. I don't really know. The other interest I had was reading the problem pages, so I could well have ended up with being a divorce lawyer, Marjorie Proop. There was a lady that used to Marjorie Proops or whatever her name was, that was looking after people's problem areas and solving them. So I don't know, it could have gone one way or the other. So it would have been law, it might have been psychology, but it ended up as estate agency.
I mean, what was it like growing up when you were young in Islington? I mean, your parents must have had a tough time when they came over.
It's funny because they had the toughest time when they were in Cyprus, actually, in the village with the hard agricultural kind of life. And I think that was harder then for them to survive. So they came over to England for a better life, but mainly for their children. By then, I had an older sister and there was myself. But when they came to England, Dad always worked really, really hard. We didn't see much of him except for his days off. But at the same time, it was a better life in a way, because they could work, they could earn real money. And the first house was a 4-floored house in Caledonian Road, where they didn't need all of that. They were used to living in 1 room, for example, or 2 rooms. So they had extra rooms. They'd bring family over or they'd rent some rooms, and that gave them enough money to then save enough money and buy another property that was even larger still. But so that gave them an income. But there was the rationing. I barely just about remember the ration books, but at the same time, other than the rationing, they at least had money in their pockets and they were not hungry. They were not deprived, they could pay their bills, and they did very well, actually. So I ended up with, I was a secretary for 10 years. I went to secretarial college. It wasn't really enough for me. I didn't get any job satisfaction. So when I had the opportunity, I started off as with my own estate agency, and I built up from there. Honesty, integrity is part of my DNA. I've had that not instilled in me, but I've been lucky to have parents that both had very high standards when it came to moral scruples, when it came to honesty, integrity, truthfulness, and one thing another. And therefore that's carried on in me. And that's the kind of business that I chose to run. And especially during a time when estate agents had a really bad name.
I mean, I heard that your dad celebrated his 99th birthday recently.
Absolutely, and it's a shame. We had great big plans for him. We were going to order a big cake, and we were going to have the whole family of 32 of us, and we were banking on the weather being better and to have it in the garden. And then, unfortunately, my sister and her family, about 5-6 of them, caught COVID, and by waiting till they were clear and not knowing if the ones that caught it from them were clear, we missed the boat. So we just celebrated a little bit literally on the day. And Dad gave a really good speech, bless him. My sister-in-law wished that he would live to 150, and he's still got a sense of humour, his intelligence. And he says, no, I don't want the 150. They said, but why not? And he said, 100. So my brother then said, okay, let's go to the 100 and we can see from there. I've always thought he would go to 105, 106, 110, and I think he would have done, but the last year and so of COVID has really set him back. He's felt isolated. He doesn't always understand the whys and wherefores, but I hope that we get over that, and we plan a really big Leventis party in September next year.
And where are your parents from?
They're both from Rizogatpason, so we're through and through Rizogatpason, but Lord knows what we are if you look at DNA from years ago, but we're not one end and another. I'm totally 100% Rizogatpason.
I mean, now your estate agency is based in Fosters. How's business progressing in the estate agency business?
To be honest, touch wood, ever since we had the stamp duty threshold, the added advantage, and especially the madness for the end of June, and now for the end of September, it's really been an absolute godsend. It really has. It's been hard work, but it's been a godsend. These flowers here are from one of our vendors that they've exchanged, and they're completing next week actually, and that they were sent to us, and no, they completed today. So I've got those ones wrong. There's some of them that didn't quite make it to the 30th, so they were sent with appreciation. Not everything goes smoothly. You have the lumps and the bumps and the problem areas, but I've got the expertise after 45 years to be able to sort out most things, and our success rate is a hell of a lot higher than some of the losses that are inevitable.
I mean, talking about people trying to get on the property ladder now, it seems to me that it's very difficult for them to get onto the property ladder.
It's much harder. We were talking yesterday, and basically people's first houses were the kind of houses now that would be about 750,000, and it just isn't possible unless they've got a lot of help from parents. Not many people are in that kind of position to buy their first house in a good area and a decent house at that, but they're getting by. I think a lot of them, if they've got good jobs, a good education behind them, and a bit of help from their parents, somehow or other they manage to get on that ladder. Some have to move further away or start with a 1 or 2 bedroom flat until they find their feet. But this is the way it goes. There's always people that are advantaged and not so advantaged.
I mean, you're a grandmother as well. You must be proud of your grandchildren.
Absolutely. I just love them to bits. It's the best thing. It's as good as the best thing that's happened to me. I think when you have your own children, you're much younger. You've got more pressures on you. You're running a home, you're running a job or a career or a business. But when you've got these adorable grandchildren, I love being called a yaya, and yaya is. If I had anything that said, what is your most favourite part, it's being a yaya. I just love them to bits.
Well, thank you very much, Christine, for telling us your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much.